Good evening, folks. This is your weekly wake-up call where we are talking about, as it turns out, most timely, voter manipulation, whether it's suppression, intimidation, and various other forms of right-wing bullshit. And without further ado, I'm turning this over to Dave.
All right. So in 1981, a group of about 200 off-duty New Jersey cops formed a group called the National Ballot Security Task Force. And what they did, they went to poor urban areas where there were African American voters, Hispanic voters, and they harassed them and they intimidated them from voting. They were showing themselves as voter integrity enforcers. They had little armbands, they had little outfits, they put signs up. And guess what? It actually worked. The governor of the Republican gubernatorial candidate won. So, of course, the Republicans are going to want it again, but the Democrats called it out. And in 1982, the RNC and the New Jersey Republican State Committee entered into a consent decree keeping them from doing this. Now, time and time again, they tried to overturn this and allow themselves to do it again. And eventually, in December of 2017, a statute of limitations it ended. And guess what? That was perfect. That was during the Trump administration. And this is when things really started to heat up. And there are several articles about this. There are several articles about how new groups are being formed and not just for urban areas and African American areas, but also in pockets of gay communities in religious areas in California, in Northern California. So, Guardian article, 1981, a task force intimidated voters at the polls. Will Republicans revert to their old tactics? The answer is yes. This was an article of the Guardian, Ed Pilkington, in August of 2020. So this is right before the election. If you remember, there was a documentary, quote unquote documentary, that was debunked, by the way, by Dinesh D'Souza, claiming that there were people who were rigging the election by stuffing ballot boxes and trafficking ballots, and that the evidence was so damning that it has to be exposed. The only person that I know of that has been caught doing this is Tina Peters, who is a Republican. Okay, so also we have a couple other people involved in this. We have Ken Paxton, okay, who is part of this whole thing. He's the Attorney General of Texas, and he has been pushing this idea of voter corruption for a very long time to deter immigrants from voting. We also have someone. Her name is Catherine Engelbrecht. She is a Texas mom, an election fraud group. She met with the Tea Party back in 2011, and she formed an election, quote unquote, an election integrity group, I guess you would call it. And she also was the star of Dinesh D'Souza's documentary. Okay, so it was called, the group is called True the Vote. And she's been around for over 10 years. And she found, a gold mine in the Trump election fraud theories. We also have people organizing a voter stakeouts in Arizona and also in Northern California. There are stories out there of Northern California counties warning of very aggressive people impersonating election officials. This is very close to this group, this New Jersey voting group, and these people are in Shasta County. Now, what I noticed in Shasta County, we have an uproar in Shasta County over support for gay and lesbian rights. So it just seems to me that this would be par for the course and this would be related. So this adds to voter suppression and voter intimidation. And Deb gave me an article. This was from Common Dreams back in August of this year, where nearly 1/3 of the country worry about violence and intimidation at the polls. So what do we have to do at this point? Do we have to bring people with people to make sure they feel that like they're safe? I mean, it's ridiculous. Now
we're going to need to have poll, escorts like we do in front of, abortion clinics, so that people aren't harassed as they're walking in and out. You know what? I don't know what it takes, but I know fundamentally, if you are going to stand out there and harass people about voting, that is totally fucking un-American. And that kind of shit needs to stop. And in spite of the fact that that some people are afraid, you have absolutely got to show up at the polls this year. There can be absolutely no staying home come the midterms, because I promise you, if you let these people win, it only gets worse from here, okay? It only gets worse from here. The right wing in this country is calling the shots. The GOP isn't calling the shots. The GOP long ago turned this party over to the right, okay?
Yep.
They are just little fucking bootlicking pussies for the right-wing extremists in this country, because they want to get elected. There are no rational Republicans left in office. The gig is up. It is now your chance to see that these people are completely put out of business. You have a choice. You either vote the way your name says with the I next to it and vote for fascism, or you vote Democrat until we can clean this shit out and get things back to normal so we can start disagreeing with each other over things that really matter.
So we have Heidi Bayrick, the co-founder of Global Project Against Hate and Extremism, giving polling numbers about how safe Americans feel. Only 41% of Americans feel safe at a polling place. And for you to, anyone who thinks that is unfounded, do you remember Howard Zinn, the man who many Republicans want, his book they want to suppress, because he brings it out. He brings out historical facts that lynchings happened, that riots happened, that massacres happened when African Americans tried to vote, when immigrants tried to form labor unions. There is a historical precedent. And as Deb said, your Republicans, your rational Republicans, they are disappearing from public view. You had 10 House reps vote for impeachment, 7 senators fighting for, fighting against Trump. And we now have 2 House reps left. And slowly but surely, the senators are disappearing as well. Okay, so we have to do this. And if you think letting these guys have their way is a way to do this, they're just going to push harder. Knowing that this works, they're going to push harder.
Hey, listen, here in Massachusetts, Charlie Baker, who 5 years ago, they were talking about him being potentially a presidential candidate. Charlie Baker's retiring from politics at a young age. He's in a state where we have no term limits for governor. He's been a Republican governor in a Democratic state, and he has managed to get along with the legislature here. We have a really unique situation with Charlie Baker, where, yes, he has done some stuff to piss us off, but more often than not, he has learned how to work with the Democratic legislature. That's what this government is supposed to be all about, by the way, okay? Working for the common good of the people, all right? We have Charlie Baker retiring from politics because there's no place for him in this party. You know, he's just walking away.
We just had one more. Ben Sass, he's a senator in Nebraska. He's resigning so he can take a job in a Florida college. Now, what do you think the Republicans did? They celebrated. Trump was giddy about it. So, you know,
because it gives him another slot to stick an extremist in. That's right. Exactly what it is. This is what's going on, folks. You know, I don't know what more connection we can make. You know, the GOP attended the Conservative Political Action Conference this year. The keynote speaker was Viktor Orban, a man who dismantled democracy in Egypt. Okay. We have now elected a fascist in Italy. This woman has been associated with Steve Bannon, was in the movie The Brink, the documentary, and signed on to Steve Bannon's worldwide vision of fascism in 2018. She is now the Prime Minister of Italy. We are having Bolsonaro reelected in Brazil. Bolsonaro is a fascist. He is friends with Donald Trump. In fact, Donald Trump endorsed him. What president endorses despots from other countries? Donald Trump himself has love letters from Kim Jong-un. Right. You know what? I don't know what we need to see. We have a whole set of Republicans in office who are backing Vladimir Putin on this war in Ukraine. You know,
we have Ron DeSantis's media director worked for a Russian leader. She was his press secretary. What else do you need to see? Now, I'm going to probably next week's wake-up call, just the little wake-up call for your next wake-up call, will be the international, you know, this is the real globalism here, by the way. It's a global fascist
new world order, folks. You want the new world order? You all missed the fucking boat. You all missed the fucking boat, okay? The new world order, this is what you're fucking looking at right now.
It's not Bill Gates and bees. It's this.
Right.
So that's what we got.
We'll see you for the big show.